Hi, I'm Brian LaRosa with LaRosa's Trains on Facebook, and what I have here is an old Lionel pre-war O-gauge Tinplate 259E steam engine. For those of you who follow me on YouTube and or Facebook for a while, you know that I normally prefer collecting post-war and modern O-gauge trains. But as you can see, this one looks pretty different than what you're used to. Now, I think I got started with tinplate trains when we went to this one local consignment shop that sells a lot of antiques. And they did sell a few Lionel items. So we found a few of them, and they look pretty nice. And although these tinplate items look very nice, up until now I didn't have any tinplate locomotives, so I couldn't do anything with these cars. And the reason was because during the pre-war period, the couplers on these cars were not the same couplers as these knuckle type couplers that are present on post-war and modern trains. So that's why I couldn't use them. Well, about a year after I got started with tinplate trains, for Christmas of 2014, I finally received my first tinplate locomotive, which is this one, and so that it can pull any tinplate cars on my layout. Now, initially I was assuming that it might not work on my layout in the first place and might need some repairs. And I didn't really do a test run on that engine because of this. So we decided to take this engine to my local train store I normally go to, Engine House Hobbies, to see if this can be repaired. Now, a little later, it was finally repaired, and I believe it was probably the E-unit inside this engine that had to be replaced. Now, if you don't know what an E-unit is, an E-unit is a name for the reversing unit on conventional engines like this. And so now it becomes really fun to run these tinplate trains on my layout. And so far I've been collecting almost every generation of Lionel, the pre-war period, post-war period, and the modern era period, including the MPC era and the Richard Kuhn era. So it's really fun to run some Lionel trains from the whole history of it. Here's a quick look at the tinplate cars that this engine will be hauling. Now, these are not all the tinplate cars that I have in my collection. I do have a few others in my collection, but I'm not going to show you all of these cars in this video, mainly because I don't have too much to say about them. But the other reason is that some of the cars are not quite in the best condition. So, for instance, some tinplate cars have missing couplers and may need to be serviced sometime in the future. So I may want to get something like a tinplate coupler replacement kit so that I can install these replacement couplers, and then I can have them more useful. But for right now, I'm just gonna run these cars. Now, if you want to see all my cars, I will probably post some photos to my Facebook page, and that way you'll see all my tinplate cars that I have in my collection. One last thing I want to mention before I run this thing around my layout is to answer a question you may want to ask me, whether I can collect some MTH Lionel Corporation tinplate reproductions, since some of them are O gauge. Well, it would be a good suggestion, but for right now they're a little bit too expensive for me. So, but what's interesting about MTH is that there are two versions of each of most tinplate locomotives. One is with the typical Protosound 2 or 3 system, and one that is in the traditional version. So what makes it interesting is the price that costs the same as each other, and that's a really good deal. I couldn't find a price that's higher than either the traditional or the Protosound version. So maybe sometime, maybe in a few years from now, I may want to collect some MTH tinplate trains, but right now I haven't made up my mind about it. So anyway, I'm going to start running this engine around my layout. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm Brian LaRosa, and I'll see you next time.